Welcome back. Today, we're delving into the world of international education in one of the most competitive markets on the planet, Hong Kong. But we're not talking about billion-dollar campuses or high-stakes exam factories. Instead, we're looking at what happens when a school intentionally chooses a different path, one centered on justice, knowledge, and love. Our guest today is Dr. Aaron Baumgartner, elementary principal at the American International School in Hong Kong. Known to his community as Dr. B, he brings a fascinating perspective. He didn't start out in education. He started out in the world of banking when the housing crisis shifted his focus to education. There, he found his true calling on helping young learners to find their confidence. Dr. B also literally wrote the book on what makes Hong Kong parents satisfied with a school. Let's get into it. Good morning, Dr. B. Welcome to Destination Education.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So this is our first, you're based in Hong Kong and you're based at a Hong Kong school, which we'll get into later.
Yeah.
It's our first time focusing on Hong Kong, so I'm excited. We always start by asking our guests a little bit about you. Like, who are you? What's your background? Where were you educated? And how did you get here?
Sure. Love to share. I grew up in a rural town in Pennsylvania. Maybe there was 10,000 people in the city. Public school. My mom was a school teacher. She taught business in high school. And my dad was a school teacher for a little bit, teaching shop. Then went on to be an engineer. Shop is like wood shop and metal shop where kids
Okay.
make wood and metal things. So grew up in a family of educators. My sister is a teacher also. So grew up in a family of educators. Went to university to be a teacher. Was in 2 or 3 years. And everybody's like, you're going to make no money. Why do you want to be a teacher? You know, we think you're fairly gifted at things, so I switched my major. I graduate with a degree in business management from Susquehanna University, which is a private university in the United States, and was a assistant bank manager. And as we know, the housing crisis came in 2004. And my bank manager came in and said, nobody has a job. And I think it was a month and a half or 2 months, and we'll give you a golden parachute or whatever. We'll pay you for 6 months or so on. And I was like, okay.
So that was how many years in? You'd been working there for?
Maybe like a year and a half.
Okay.
Not long.
Did you enjoy it?
No. So I would go home at the end of the day and be like, did I really help anybody? Like, I sold this person the mortgage. I explained it the best I could, but is it really the best thing for them or is it the best thing for the bank? So I never really quite slept well with it. I knew something was missing. And I would have friends and family tell me always, oh, we're not so sure you fit in here. Like, they love me and things like that, but maybe this little town in Pennsylvania isn't for you. So the closing of the banks happened with the housing crash. I then was like, what did I always want to do? I was like, I always wanted to travel and kind of see the world. And I went back to university and talked to some of the people there, and they told me about an interview at NYU. So me and my mom drove up to NYU. I interviewed for this teaching job overseas in Japan. I remember we drove back in the snow. My mom still tells me about, like, this was the worst snowstorm that we ever drove back from New York City. And I got a job in Japan. And I left and I haven't been back since. So I've been overseas in Southeast Asia for almost 20 years in the educational system. In that time, I went back and got many certificates, many degrees and so, and I'll go into those. But I taught in Japan for 5 years. And then I was in Thailand for 5 or 6 years.
And what were you teaching? Because at that point, you weren't a qualified teacher. Was it one of those those programs?
Sure. In Japan, I was part of the JET program.
Yeah.
So I was teaching English across high school students mostly. I would travel to 3 or 4 different schools. The way they did it is if you were willing to go to the countryside, they would pay you a little bit more money and they would give you a car because you had to make it to 4 or 5 different high schools. And I grew up in the countryside, so I was never very comfortable with big cities. So I went to the countryside. And an interesting part of my educational journey too is kind of thought I was cursed for a while. So I was in Japan. I left in December and I was in Ofanato in Iwate and the tsunami came. And it was where all my students were and that was lost. And then I went to Thailand. I worked there for 5 or 6 years. And then there was a government coup that happened when I was there. And then I went to mainland and then there was teaching there and COVID came and we were locked in apartments. It was quite strict there with what we could do. But I will have to say, since I arrived at Hong Kong and when I interviewed at Hong Kong, there were some things going on here. But since I've arrived here, the curse seems to be lifted and things are going
Say
quite
anything.
well
Yeah.
since then. Just getting back. So yeah, I wasn't a qualified teacher there because I wasn't sure if this is what I wanted to do. So I was dipping my toes in the water those first years in Japan. And then I realized, no, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be in. And I went back to university. I got my teaching certificate. And then after that, when I was in Thailand, I got my master's in educational leadership and with a core study of IB. So I have the long IB certificate, which I think is quite rare. I don't know that many because there's not that many universities that offer that. And then after that, I went and got my doctorate where I got my principal's license and wrote my dissertation. And I've continued my research working with Cheryl Bostrom, another professor and multi-doctorate lady that helps me with the writing, and we work together. And we've just submitted another paper for peer review. So the jury's out, but things are looking good right now.
Interesting. I
Mm.
started off in a bank as well. You know,
Yeah.
I sympathize. Yeah.
Oh.
What has haven't met many educators that had a background in like banking and finance.
Mm.
Have you? Not typical.
No, those
No.
worlds don't mingle so much. But I have
Yeah.
found it quite beneficial, especially in my role as principal.
Well, that's my next question. So I don't know, you studied business and finance or business management, and having that background in banking, what have you taken from that world and brought into this world?
I think I got a leg up on some people that first go into being principals because I understood the administration side and the numbers and the budgets, where a lot of people coming into principals are just coming from being a teacher or maybe a curriculum coordinator or something of that nature. I had a background when that was first exposed to me, like, you only have this much money to spend on this, or you only have this much to spend on this, and how to, move things around and work in that area. So I think that was quite a leg up that I had.
And you're currently principal of the elementary section at American International School in Hong Kong.
Yes, which covers early childhood also. So we have students from 2 years and 8 months all the way up to about 9
Say
years.
3,
We'll
yeah.
say 3. Yeah.
9 years.
Grade 4.
Okay. Oh, then that's the end of the elementary section. Grade 5 is middle school.
Yeah, so the way it's set up at AIS is that every 4 years is a different division.
Okay. Yeah, interesting what you say about. So are you actually doing any teaching currently?
I am not.
Do you miss it? Do you wish you were?
I do. I miss the relationship with the kids. And one thing I'm proud of is I'm going to say 75%. I know the kids' names when I'm walking down the hall and I can call them out and have conversations with them. But I miss those little intimate moments of them coming up to you and saying like, oh, look at what I discovered, and, wanting to get your approval and show, off their work. Those are the moments I miss.
I know a lot of principals that do like to keep their hand in, just teaching one lesson a week or something. What was the subject that you were teaching, or you were lower school, like elementary school?
Nope, a little bit lower, and I'll discuss that with you. But I was an early childhood teacher, so I taught 4 to 5 year olds.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is interesting. Were they mostly females in your courses?
When I was at university? Yeah. So an interesting story about that. There was 25 people in my class, and there was 3 men, and the rest were female. And I remember the professor going and pointing to the 3 of us and saying, these 3 will get jobs, but these 3 will have to tend with all types of issues that none of you will need to. And that's slowly going away. But being a male in early childhood, you always have to be quite aware of how to protect yourself and things like that. Where an example of this is a female in early childhood, it's very okay to her to go in either bathroom to like go check on the kids. But as a male teacher at that age, it's a female bathroom, we don't go check.
Yeah.
There's still quite some stereotypes in that way.
Yeah, I can understand that. I can see that from a parent's point of view. But why do you think that so few males go into early childhood? Or even primary, I see not that many males actually. Elementary.
That's a wonderful question. And I think one of the reasons is the risk that, as a male,
That you
you
just
hear
mentioned.
like about stereotypes and things. And I think the other one, and hopefully it is slowly going away, is the doors that are open for them and the opportunities. As these stereotypes go away institutionally, there's more opportunities for males to be in there.
Yet in the senior leadership teams, we see, well, there's an expression, isn't there, that white male and stale.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I heard it recently, but I mean, I've
Okay.
observed that obviously when we have events and we look around the room, and it's increased in it's overwhelmingly that is the demographic that's in the senior leadership team.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that goes to the webpage. And what do I mean by that?
Yeah.
Is educating parents, and opening that up, especially in around the world. So one of the things when I was going to get my doctorate that my head of school said to me at that time is like, nobody doesn't want to see doctor something on their webpage, next to the principal. She's like, it will always help you, put the time and effort into that. And I think more and more, we just need to educate our families and communities that it's getting the right person.
Let's take a quick break to talk about something that can make all the difference for your child's educational journey. I'm thrilled to share that this episode is sponsored by Top Schools, your trusted partner in navigating the complex world of school applications. If you're aiming for a top independent school in the UK, Top Schools offers personalised consulting to ensure your child finds the very best fit with a guaranteed outcome. From identifying those best fit schools to crafting standout applications to invigilating the entrance exams, the expert team is with you every step of the way. Ready to take control of your child's future? Visit topschoolsadmissions.com or click the link in the show notes to learn more and book a consultation today. Use the code DESTINATION for 20% off. That code is DESTINATION for 20% off personalised support for entry into a top independent boarding school in the UK. Now, back to our conversation.
Well, we were talking off camera earlier,
Sure.
and a parent had asked me this morning, and I'd love your take on this. How do we, on the outside, as parents, evaluate the quality of the teaching in any given school? Like even a school, like our child is in school, they're happy, we like the teacher, but how do we actually evaluate his or her teaching?
That's a great question. So one of the things as a parent is, what does your student need? So some parents have students that need confidence built. Some parents have students that need to get up their arithmetic or their literacy. So when I'm doing admissions and things of that nature, I tell every parent and say, okay, now it's time for you to interview us. This needs to be a two-way agreement. We're going to have a relationship here. And I just spoke to you. I'm making sure you're the right fit for us. Now you need to do
At
vice
that point,
versa.
they freeze and they don't ask. They don't know what to ask. Right? I guess they're afraid at that point.
Yeah, or surprised that they don't realize the power that they have. And I always want to make them, very aware that, you are the consumer.
Yes.
We are providing a service and stuff, and you got to make sure it's the right one for you. If you're going to a hotel, there's 7 hotels that are lovely, but maybe this one's a little more family friendly
That's your
for your family.
commercial background coming into play there. Perhaps.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do they ask you? What should they ask you that they don't ask you?
I think the question that I would love to hear, and I wouldn't say they don't ask, but not everyone asks, is what do you do when blank is struggling? So, when my son or daughter is having a rough day, how will you reach out to them? How will you help them? Just so we have a plan already in place, or the school can do something. And I would say, most people would whip out the word differentiation or something like that. But understanding that, hey, my student is going to struggle someday, and this may be something that I can't help them with. How are you going to support them in that area?
We do counsel parents to ask questions like that, but again, in the world of, not to be too cynical about it, but it is a very commercialized industry now, and they're selling. And so they might say the right thing. They say what we want to hear, but how do we know if that's actually happening in practice?
I think the best thing you can do is say, hey, can we go talk to some students? Schedule a tour, schedule an admissions when there are other classes live or children on campus, and just try to get a snapshot of a day. A snapshot of an admissions office is not what's going on in the school. A snapshot of what's happening in the hallways or in a lunch hall or something like that is much clearer of what that school is.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, I'm going to get back to that. I mean, we talk about touring, but quality of teaching, I'm not sure if we got there. Is it impossible to evaluate the quality of teaching as an outsider?
Yes, because let's not say impossible. Let's say challenging.
Yeah.
Because teaching isn't something that I can get across to you in a moment. Teaching is something that first, as we know that, now I can't think of the scientists, but the first thing students need to do is feel safety. You need to feel safe in any environment before you can start learning. You need to know that this is a place I can feel safe. And a teacher has to establish this with the students. That's not going to happen in a day.
Is it Bloom's taxonomy?
Bloom's taxonomy. Thank you. So we need to know that they feel safe. And a good teacher, a quality teacher that you're saying will take time to establish this. This is not something that needs to be rushed. We tell all our teachers, hey, if there's nothing going on for the first couple of weeks academically, that's okay. The kids got to know how the classroom works. They got to know that this is the routine. This is how you feel safe there. And then we can move on to the dangerous stuff, which is new information. I feel safe in this area, so now I can receive new information, whether that's a times table or a division problem or something like that, because I know if I fail or if I struggle, I'm in a safe area for that. And that's why I'm saying visiting in an environment, and it is, so I know most of our parents don't work in the educational field, but I would say to them, you can probably walk into an office when you're interviewing for a job and maybe feel whose shoulders are in their ears or a little bit tighter, or how people act, when the boss walks by. Think of that same way with the school. How does that teacher act when that principal walks into the room? How do the kids act when that principal walks into the room, or whoever's leading your tour? Yeah. I think it's a great way to measure that safety, which is needed and is so important in quality teaching.
I agree. And we're talking about small children, 100%. And we've got lots of tips for, we call them vibes visits. These parents, they're millennials, but they're definitely things that you can tell by walking. I visit a lot of schools. I'm going to be visiting your school next week.
Wonderful.
So I can't wait. Moving up then the pyramid, we are in Asia and parents have high expectations. So let's say they're happy that their children feel safe and happy and they're having fun at school. That's great. But they need more than that. So how do we evaluate the teaching in terms of the rest of it?
This is not to repeat myself, but I think this is once again important. What are you looking for? So when you're looking for that high expectation, is it an academic expectation or is it an outcome of your student's personality? Our key mindset at our school is confidence. And this is what we try to help our students with from day one of coming into our school is this a school where this trait that I want my student to have has a place to flourish and grow? Yeah. Will there be focus and attention to this trait? I don't believe in a sporty minivan. So let me explain. There's a reason Ferrari or Lamborghini or any of those, Lotus or something doesn't make a minivan. Because if you try to do two things, you get neither one that's great. You'll get a minivan that doesn't really fit people, but maybe goes mediocre fast. Schools are specialists in what they want to be. So look at the core values of the school that you're interviewing with. When you go there, ask about them. See how well that principal or that head of school or that admissions person can feed back and answer them, making sure that they're living these core values that you're looking at, and then get the right match for your student.
But schools are complex institutions. There's a lot going on, and also age and stage. I mean, we're currently talking about little children, but then and parents have complex expectations. At the risk of, okay, let's focus on confidence then. I like that. Of course I like that. As a parent who doesn't want, you want your children to be confident, maybe sometimes in some areas, but maybe not all. Can you just explain a little bit more about what you mean?
So I'll start on what we're doing this year that I think is helping quite a bit, and then what we've done throughout. So our head of school put in a wonderful initiative starting this year, and we don't any longer at our school say that kids are moving up or moving down or things like that.
In terms of sets or year grade?
In sets. We're not moving up from grade 1 to grade 2 or grade 3 or 4, because we realized that was devaluing what is going on in early childhood, or making high school more important than elementary or things like that. And they all have a very big importance in your students' growth. So we move from a division or we move to a division in that nature, no longer moving up. And this vocabulary, I think, is so important and has helped a lot of our staff and things like that feel like, PC has just a big right to say we need these things or these values or stuff, with putting that in that vocabulary or verbiage into place. And then the other things that we've been doing to build that confidence is we don't go to school to get better at school. We go to school so we can do things in the world. And when you're young, what is one of the things that why you might not be as confident is you depend on others to do things for you, whether that's tie your shoes or, put your lunchbox together or things like that. You're dependent on mom, auntie, dad, a guardian, someone to do that for you. And the more that you can do for yourself, the more confident you can be. So how do we get there at AIS? Kids go out in the world at least 5 times a year, even if they are our earliest students at 3 years old. and explore the world and understand how their lessons apply to the world. So a great example of this is our transportation unit. Kids could just learn about cars and look at them, or look about buses and learn about them and so on. What do? We give the kids a bag of money and they get on the bus. They put the coins in the bus. They go to the train. They put them in. They get their tickets. They go across the Star Ferry and take all types of transportation they can. We don't put them on a plane, but most of the other transportation is covered. But that lets them know, like, oh, this thing I learned in school, this is how I apply it in the world, even at a young age.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, kids love that. I remember my kids going out to a supermarket around the corner during one of their maths units for something. You mentioned applied. I think you've got this, I don't know if it's how you call it, SPA, social, personal, and applied. Is that how do you refer to that in the school?
SPA.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
is it your ethos, or is it your some sort of statement for something?
Sure. It's part of our future framework.
Right.
And our future framework is what we use to explain our what, how, and why we do our learning. And SPA, so social, if you come into our early childhood, and which you'll get to see it firsthand in about a week or so, you'll see no desk in the classrooms. It is an open space because we want kids connecting with each other. Even as you go up in elementary school, there's no... As adults, I think sometimes, even for me, I'll close my eyes and vision a classroom and I still vision ducks in a row, like desk in a row where we're sitting in high school. We sit at tables because we don't know what the future is going to be for jobs, but we do know that you're going to have to work with somebody. And so being at a table, I love the secondary things that kids learn. And I'll hear them say it sometimes like, oh, I don't have enough space, or this is my room. And I'm like, these are the lessons I want you to learn. These are the lessons of how do I deal sharing this space with other people? How do I understand that maybe I got to keep my stuff a little bit neater because this person's using the space right next to me? I love these secondary lessons that occur with that. So all the way up, kids sit at tables and grouping with that. So that's the social learning with that. Personalized, is making sure that kids are getting learning for their level. Technology has been a wonderful way to start applying and having kids get more personalized lessons. AI has been wonderful with this too, with helping us get more personalized lessons for students. Where a teacher in the past, or when I was teaching, which is definitely the past at this point, but I would have to try to make as many different lessons as possible for all the different levels in my classroom, where now with technology, we can almost get it 24 lessons for 24 kids. Like you're able to adapt it to that level.
But then practically speaking, how many have you got in a class? Like
24 in elementary school and 20 in EC.
So 20 or 24. Then you talked about differentiation earlier, but then how does the teacher, is it one teacher?
Yes.
One teaching assistant? No.
In early childhood, there is a teaching assistant.
How do you deliver those different lessons that you can easily now plan using AI, but how do you actually practically deliver the differences?
Sure. Your expectation never changes of a student. There is a standard which they would need to meet. It's how you get there. And the jargon that is used in education is scaffolding. When I'm always explaining this to parents, I always tell them, what's the one part that happens with scaffolding at the end? It gets removed. So it is there to support the learning. It is temporary. And then when the building is finished or the lesson is learned, it gets removed. Now, some buildings have scaffolding up longer than others. Some only get it halfway up the building and the building gets completed. But that's what these lessons or this technology allows us to do that maybe 5 or 6 years ago we weren't able to do.
Yeah, huge time saver, right? So we did the social, the personal, and the applied is like an example which you mentioned, like field trips out and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Going back to the visits. Again, I'm representing the parents here. If we're on the outside, what is the one sort of sense? Like, what's the vibe? If I walked into one of your teachers' classrooms tomorrow, what do I feel?
If you're going to lock me down to like maybe 1 or 2 words, I'll go with excitement and joy. I will walk into a classroom now, and the teachers have actually asked me to maybe slow down with this. And the kids are so excited to see me because they might get to talk to a new family. I'll pull a kid or two out in the hall, and I feel very confident that there are some kids that are shy and I don't want to put them in that place, and I know who they are. But 95% of the kids I could bring out in the hall, and they are excited to have a conversation with a new family and tell them about the school and tell them what they're doing in the classroom. You walk into a classroom and you'll see all the hands go up and go, Dr. B, Dr. B, Dr. B. And 2 or 3, I'll usually just choose the 2 or 3 closest to the door, and they'll come out in the hallway and they're happy to talk. And why is that? It's going back to, once again, our key mindset is confidence. And we want kids to be able to talk to not to strangers, but to new people whenever they can.
Confidence. And how do you, well, you've talked about tech. I'm not sure. When do you sort of start to introduce tech to the children?
So this is something that I have worked on very hard in my 6 years there, and with the support of our head of school have been able to achieve. And that is bringing programs to have a through line through the school. So as early as EC2, kids get to go.
EC2, let's define that's 5 years old.
So sorry, as early as EC1. So that's our 3 to 4 year olds. They do start STEAM class, and STEAM class is science, technology, engineering, arts, math. They start to get exposed to how to do coding. They get exposed to how to do coding and robotics. And things of this nature. Now, I saw a little bit of grimace there.
No, I know those little toy car things that
What I want to say is no screens. Or very, very little screens.
Yeah.
It's all manipulatives or tangible things which they can move. Because a big part about coding is understanding linear thinking, or how to put, things in order, or how to debug, find out when something is not in order and, remove it. So it's just basically starting their teaching, but it's not about putting them in front of a screen or any more things
when
like that.
do they get screens?
At grade 3, we become 1-to-1, and kids have their own iPads at that point. We are an Apple distinguished school, so we do things with the Apple ecosystem.
They have the iPad. They take it home, or they leave it in school?
They take it home.
It is grade 3. It's quite young, isn't it? I guess it's normal, but yeah.
So I had this conversation with parents a lot of time. One thing we stay up with is how much screen time they're actually having in school. And I am constantly testing the water with that. So I'll talk to students. Students will say 50 to 60% of the time. I talk to teachers. They say 40 to 50% of the time. So I imagine it's somewhere in that 50% of the time is only with screens. But this is where I challenge parents and teachers about the thinking. I think a lot of us as adults see an iPad and see a toy. Like, this is where I get my YouTube. This is where the student gets their roadblocks or their Minecraft or things like that. We're working very hard to help our students understand that this is a tool. This is something used to help express your creativity. This is something to use to help you express an idea or a thought. This is a tool and not a toy. And we have lessons or coffee mornings about screen time. And one of the things I go to the parents, I go, let's look at it this way. Is 30 minutes on YouTube, do you think that's the same as 30 minutes where your student worked with 3 other students to build a city, sharing a bunch of resources in a group? And no, these are different things. So I think that word screen time gets generally used across the board, no matter what we're doing. But, when I go to work, or anybody probably in an office, they are looking at a screen, but they are being productive. They are doing work.
And I think obviously we're talking about EC and primary today, but when we get into middle school and high school and the whole, social media, and we're having a lot of interesting conversations around that. I want to go back to parenting, parent partnership and that. So Hong Kong is a strange place. I don't know. It's highly competitive. I think we tend to find that the parents are ambitious for their children. I don't know if do you find that?
No, I have worlds of patience and excitement for anybody who's just trying to help their student out more. There's nothing wrong with having big goals and big dreams for your kid. There's healthy ways, sometimes it becomes not healthy. But I would say 90% just want something great for their kid. And they didn't grow up in education, or they didn't go to all the courses and classes that, a lot of us have sat through in the education world. So they're just trying to throw whatever they can at it. And I feel like a conversation with a lot of these parents, you get a long way. You can really reach to them.
Interesting. So why do parents choose your school, and what do they say to you?
I think one of the reasons that parents that have been with us are quite content and happy is we don't think of education as a competition. It's not about ranking the student, or this one's the best or this one's the worst. It's about supporting all the students to grow, whether you're at the top, middle, or wherever you are in that bell curve, as any group of humans end up becoming when you put them together, is that not trying to compete with the other ones. I'm just trying to make sure I grow and get to my best place, which creates a healthier and happy environment.
For sure. But then you also said, going back,
Sure.
we can differentiate in the classroom, yet the expectation is the same. There are milestones, and let's call them academic milestones. Or do you call them something different in early childhood?
Standards or milestones.
Standards, yeah. So there is that.
Yes.
So that at least there's a minimum standard that each child needs to achieve. And then, so how do you correlate that with it's okay, you just need to do your best?
So, as you said, there's a standard which they would need to achieve. Now, if once you delve into academics or start to read these standards, they are written in such a way that they are open to interpretation of what they are. They are not written, most of them, of like an exact thing. It's like students need to gain an understanding of biomes or something like that. That means where I am in that spectrum, I can have a different relationship to that standard of what I achieve with it and where I get with it. But we all get to at least this point with it. So that helps us, and it helps all our students there where you are, because whether you're at the top, middle, or end, you can extend it. You can go further. And that's where I said, like, technology has really come to help these students.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess a lot of the parents I talk to I think they somehow, maybe not any fault of theirs, but they somehow do view it as a competition. I think we all know what the dinner party, the talk is, and all of that. But you did more research. You did a dissertation on was it measuring the climate in a school, which is parent satisfaction with certain aspects of the school. So I'd be interested to know. I mean, this sort of leads on from what we were talking about. What are they really focusing on, and are these the right things?
Sure. What we found out in doing the research is that with parental satisfaction, the parents got a wonderful window into what the schools were doing during COVID times, because people were having class in living rooms, in bedrooms, in kitchens, or wherever was space. That was now the classroom. And parents were getting to stand in the background or hear what these interactions were going on. And what parents were looking for the most is that school was taking care of the business and not bringing it home. What does that mean? So if there was homework, they wanted students to be able to complete the homework without parental assistance. So I'm in grade 3 and I have, some social studies homework or history homework to do, and I bring it home. They didn't want it to be a family project. They wanted it to be something that the student completes and can bring back to school. And so I actually take this research and I apply it all the time. And I tell parents when they come for admissions at AIS, I'm pretty sure that you have graduated grade 4. So therefore, you do not need to do any more grade 4 homework.
But at the same time, it must be visible, right? They want to see that their child has homework to do, don't they?
They want to see that their child is growing. They want to see that their child is developing new skills. They want to see that their child is becoming the best 9-year-old version or best version of themselves.
And how do they measure that?
Sharing documentation, having open lines of communication. That can be seen just as well with completed projects of, hey, this is what I did at school. We completed this project. Look at what I can do now. One of the great things, and this is why I think it's still so important that we do physical writing or, writing handbooks. And I see it in parent-teacher conferences or meetings we have with the parent is we go, here's page 2. Here's what Susie was doing on day 2 of school. Here's what Susie's doing on page 27, day 120 of school. Look at the growth. Look at what she was doing then and what she can see now. That's what parents want to see. They want to see the change.
I think that's a really good point. I think that's important. Again, I love to see books in schools, but increasingly, maybe slightly older children, I'm trying to think primary school. There are schools that I visit that they really don't write very much at all. They're not they're writing like a couple of sentences on a poster, and that's a group project. So you don't actually know what your child did or if they did anything. So you're a proponent of books and children writing in books.
Yes. 2 reasons, and still reading books or hardbound books or softcover books is one, technology has currently moved faster than our brains, which it always does, right? But there is a sense of accomplishment when you write something and you write 2 or 3 pages and you can physically turn a page and go, look, I filled these 2 pages, where that sense of accomplishment is not there so much of, let me scroll further down. This is the same thing with reading a tactile book. I still do it now. I just finished a book and I'm like, oh, I'm 3/4 of the way through because I can look at the side. I'm going to keep reading tonight because, I want to.
Motivated to finish.
Yeah, I feel so
yeah.
proud of how many pages are on the left-hand side compared to the right-hand side of the book. And that's not there when I'm just seeing a number move as I swipe.
Yeah, I instinctively feel that, but that's why I'm old. Cognitively, like as an educator, what else is happening when a child is reading physical books and writing in physical books?
Please explain the question. I'm not sure I understand.
Cognitively, is the efficacy of learning, does it differ somehow than if they're typing on an iPad or writing in a book?
Sure. So one of the things that naturally occurs is and I sometimes jump into classes. Sorry, this little bit of a side thing here. And we'll do, I think I'm a pretty good typer. And I will do little typing races with some of the kids. And they blow me out of the water. Like their typing is so fast. So the reason I bring that up is that's where it's cognitively different. Kids cannot write 120 words per minute, with a pencil or something like that. They cannot write at that speed. So it slows down the process. It gives them more clarity of when they are thinking. You can see the difference in the writing and often the amount of details that students have put on the page compared to typing. And I think a big reason is that because typing, their fingers are moving so fast and the brain's trying to keep up with the fingers, where vice versa, when they're using a pen or pencil, that the brain is actually faster than the hand and the hand's trying to keep up with the brain.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And when they have to do a second draft, they're not just editing a few words, they have to start over and write the whole thing again.
Yes.
And let's get back to climate. So you said that one thing was that parents were looking for the school to take care of all of the homework, right?
Yes.
What else were the parents looking for?
I just want to go back to homework. I know this is from the parents' side, but it is the one thing that is as we want to make a school as equal for all our students and equitable for all our students, it is the one thing that is very inequitable for all our students. So when you and I are sitting in a classroom, we're sitting in the same lights, we're exposed to the same teacher or the other people around us. Now I give you a homework assignment that I want learning from. You may be going home to an environment that is peaceful. You have no brothers or sisters, and you have mom and dad that their work schedule is applicable to you, helping you with your homework. Where I go home, maybe I have 3 siblings and, we just had a new baby in the house or something like that. The home environments are so different. So now the learning has become very inequitable of what is going on with these students. And now they bring it back. And I'm like, well, why are you behind, Aaron? But I just sent the learning to a very different environment. So that's another reason that we try to minimize homework, and homework should only be a continuation of something you started in the school.
So children who don't finish in class will be sent.
Right, but it should be something they know how to complete. So, we have 10 math problems to do. I got through 7 of them.
Yeah.
Okay, I got to take the other 3 home.
Yeah, this whole idea of like parents supporting with homework. I mean, as you know, in the local system, it's just so common. Parents, I hear it all the time, like usually mom, but not always, has like cleared like 2 weeks of annual leave because my kid has exams. And so I need to sort of sit beside him or her and make sure. Yeah, personally, I feel like it's a bit sad.
Yeah, and being an international school, we have lots of students who are the English speaker of their home. Maybe mom and dad, aren't wonderful English speakers, or it's definitely not their first language or even second language. And we're sending homework home and expecting them to help with reading, Call of the Wild or something. It's just not a reasonable expectation.
Yeah. This actually can loop me back to the idea of competition and parents being ambitious for their children. So as long as they're happy and they feel safe and we can look in their books and they're progressing and their writing is improving, and that's fine when they're 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But I guess the parents get nervous because they know at a certain point in their child's life, not too very far distant in the future, there's going to be real high stakes, externally graded exams. And these exams matter because it matters for where you get into college and for the rest of your life. So I guess that those ambitions, they're just getting earlier and earlier. I don't know if you see that.
It's not uncommon for a parent to ask me, what is the matriculation from your high school? Where do your kids end up going? And ask me about AP results or AP testing, and how that works to support their students.
And what do you say?
So as I mentioned before, I do have a master's in IB. And that's usually what parents are looking for between AP and IB. And I say IB is very good for students who are not as sure what they want to be. It's a broader expectation. If you're not sure if you want to be a meteorologist or a chemical engineer, it covers the whole gambit. AP is very good for students who have an idea of what they want to go into. I know I want to be a chemical engineer, so I will take AP chemistry courses or higher
I
mathematics
thought with
courses.
AP you take how many subjects does a high school student take for AP?
So they are allowed to take as many as they want, but it's
Right.
usually 2 or 3.
Really?
Yeah.
They just take 2 to 3 AP courses.
Don't quote me on this. I am an elementary principal, but I
But
believe
not like 7 or 8. Like
So
obviously,
someone will end up doing that because you could take 2 or 3 a year. You could take 3 in 11th
Yeah.
grade and 3 in 12th grade, so you would end up with 6. And you can take an AP course as early as 10th grade if the counselors say that it's okay. Yeah.
okay.
So you could end up with quite a bit.
Yeah, we get a lot of questions about AP because I'm very familiar with A levels and IB, and I have to say AP is the one I'm least familiar with. Do most of the students at the school, you call it matriculate, right, to US college, or is there a variety of destinations?
It's about 60%, I think, is in North America.
Yeah,
And
including
then we
Canada.
have EU students. It's usually only about 15% that remain local. And local for us is Southeast Asia. So that's Japan, Korea, Hong Kong,
Yeah,
and mainland.
yeah. But Hong Kong we're seeing an uptick in Hong Kong new destinations. That's good. What is the one question that I haven't asked you yet that I should have asked you?
I think the one question you haven't asked me yet that I would love to share more about is why have you worked so hard, or why do you think it's so important that EC students get exposed to the same programs that a high school student gets exposed to?
Doing the same programs, like a STEAM program, for example.
Sure, a STEAM program, our outdoor leadership program, access to these things.
Please.
Oh, all right. So, as I said, I was an early childhood teacher, and I always was, when I was in that part of my career, going to my head of school or my principal going, my kids can do this. My kids can participate in this. Maybe not the same way, but, they can do that. And they can, get value from what they're doing. Having access to all the specialist teachers. A lot of kindergartens that I've been around in my career, the homeroom teacher ends up teaching art, or the homeroom teacher ends up teaching art, PE, or things like that. But having the kids go to these specialists does 2 things I think really wonderful. So this is just one part, having access to the specialist. What I tell parents is the first couple of years, we're teaching your child how to be a student. They're coming from an environment where there's 2 parents and 1 student, and it's very easy to get the attention of an adult. And now we're putting them in a class with 20 kids and 2 adults, and they have to share the attention and things like that. That's going to take time. That's going to take years to do and learn how to be a student. And the earlier we can expose them to these programs, they can understand more that when I'm in the art room, these are the rules for the art room. And when I'm in the PE space, these are the rules for the PE space. And when I'm in the homeroom, these are, rather when they get to grade 1, that's the first time they're understanding, I'm going to see 5 or 6 different teachers. So I think that's 2 parts that it really helps with that. And then being part of the school, being part of something bigger is another part of understanding that you're a student. So being able to go to PE class or going to the art space or the art room, not being cordoned off in just the EC section, these kids are part of the school, not only for them, like they're in the cafeteria with the big kids, but the older kids understand that they're not a part of the big school. It's not AIS and the EC section. It's part of it.
Yeah, no, I get that. And I think your school is rather unusual in the sense that you are one campus and you have children from 3 to 17, 18, all on the same campus. So it allows you to do some interesting
Why would we
things.
not take advantage of that?
Right.
Of having them on the same campus.
Yeah.
And then the other part of bringing the programs down, we have seen it already. So, for example, we started to bring the STEAM program down to elementary, and the students we're sending up are pushing the rest of the programs forward. So what do I mean by that? Our 4th grade kids, because we just started this program 2 years ago now with STEAM, are pushing what middle school do. Now the middle school teacher's like, all these kids can do these things already. I need to up my game. We need to advance what we're doing even more. And the more we can bring that down, the better the end result is. Because the teacher in grade 5 or grade 3 goes, oh, these kids already have these skills. I don't need a time teaching that. I can move on to this next thing. And that works with our outdoor leadership program too. The kids understand what the program is, how I act when I go out. They understand that it is part of my school year, which then makes the programs better going forward.
So just quickly, we are almost out of
Sure.
time, but you've got these specialist teachers for early childhood, which is quite unusual. What does a typical day look like in early childhood? So
Okay.
Yeah.
Come in, gate opens at 7:40, come in, homeroom 8 to 8:30. Then there are hour blocks where they might have a specialist scheduled during that time, or they could be with their homeroom teacher. Then there's lunch, recess, nap time.
How long are they in school? Just 3
Oh, no, they're in the whole day.
Oh, it's a whole day program.
Yeah. So we do have, we call it whole day or AM students. So our youngest ones could be there from 8 to 11 or 8 to 3. Yeah. I would say over the years I've been there, usually 70% take part in the whole day program rather than
why wouldn't
just the
you?
AA.
Yeah. Okay. And when they're with their homeroom teacher,
Sure.
you're not doing like, what are they doing? Is it kind of like themes or
Sure.
units or?
Themes or units. I
Yeah.
think those are probably the best way to do it.
Okay.
But we're working very hard. Like I said, there's no desk or anything like
Yeah.
that for the kids. So no desk means no worksheets.
Yeah.
All tangible or tactical things. So a lot of sensory. And the reason I say that to you, and I explain this to the parents that way, is if I tell you something, it activates one part of your brain.
Yeah.
But if I tell you something and let you put your hands in it and smell it and hear it and taste it, if you can, now we're activating all different parts of your brain. And this is much easier to retain. This is much easier for you to recall later.
Yeah. And you take them out to the park a couple of times, I'm not sure, a week and I'm joining
Yes.
one of those sessions next week. So.
Yeah, it's quite lovely. The ownership and the pride these students have started to take in the park is probably one of those secondary lessons that I've mentioned before that I'm happiest about. They initiated that, hey, they were going to the park once a week and, doing things. And they're like, hey, we want to clean it up. And so once a month, they just on their own, they get trash bags and they clean up the park and stuff. And it's lovely. Yeah.
Cool. I'll look forward to that.
Yeah.
Well, it's been an interesting conversation. Thank you so much, Dr. B, for your time.
Thank you too.
Thanks for listening. If today's episode sparked questions, or if you're ready for support with UK boarding school admissions, we're here to help. Reach out to us at www.topschoolsadmissions.com or follow the link in the show notes. Your child's exceptional UK boarding school educational journey starts with a conversation, so let's have a chat.